My sister walked into my office with a rent increase letter that would destroy most families financially. $2,350 to $7,100, tripled overnight. My parents stood behind her in the doorway, nodding. It's only fair, Claire, market rate. But what Sabrina didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the signature on that letter? Worthless. Because 3 years ago, my grandmother left me something that would turn their smug smiles into absolute horror. I'm Claire Maddox. For 6 years, I've managed Maple Glen Apartments in Portland, a modest 42-unit building. Nothing glamorous. I fixed Mrs. Rodriguez's heater at 2 a.m. I helped single moms negotiate payment plans. I kept this place home for people who needed it. At 34, I wasn't the Yale graduate. I wasn't the hotshot attorney with the brownstone. That was Sabrina, my older sister, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Me, community college, property management certificate, a one-bedroom in the building I ran. But I never minded, not until that morning. The click of her designer heels echoed through the lobby like a countdown. She didn't acknowledge Mrs. Rodriguez, didn't smile at the kids playing near the mailboxes, just strode past them like they were invisible. Claire, she didn't knock. We need to talk. She dropped the envelope on my desk with courtroom precision. The family had a meeting about Maple Glen last weekend. The family, as if I wasn't part of it. What meeting? My coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. Executive decision. Mom, Dad, and I discussed the building's future. Her smile was razor thin. Congratulations, your rent just became market rate. I opened the letter. $7,100 per month, effective immediately. And then she said the words that changed everything. We're taking over the building, Claire. Time to prove you can afford to stay. What she didn't know was that I'd been holding the deed the entire time. Have you ever had your entire family look at you like you're a burden? Like you're the one mistake they can finally correct? That's exactly what happened next. My father stepped into the office behind Sabrina, arms crossed, his expression carved from stone. My mother hovered near the doorway, wringing her hands but saying nothing, her usual role when Sabrina was in charge. "We've been patient, Claire," Dad said, his voice low and controlled, "but this building is a family asset, and frankly, you've been underperforming." Underperforming. I'd spent 6 years keeping this place running. I'd negotiated with contractors, handled tenant disputes at midnight, personally scrubbed graffiti off the side entrance. I'd kept occupancy at 98%, maintained 5-star reviews, and never once missed a mortgage payment. But sure, underperforming. "Sabrina's done a full legal review," Mom added quietly, finally finding her voice. "The building should be generating 3 times what it currently does. You're charging below market, way below." I looked at Sabrina. She was examining her nails, perfectly manicured, of course. "You're leaving money on the table, Claire. Sentimental management doesn't pay the bills. Mrs. Rodriguez in 3B, paying $890 for a 2-bedroom, that unit should be $2,400 minimum. She's 74 years old and on a fixed income. Not our problem." Sabrina's eyes finally met mine, cold, calculated. "This is business. You've been running this place like a charity. That ends now." My chest tightened. Grandma Ruth left this building to be a home for people, not a cash cow. Sabrina laughed, actually laughed. Grandma Ruth also left it to us, the family, and since you're just the manager, we're implementing new policies. She slid a second document across my desk. Tenant rent adjustment notice, all units. I scanned it. Every single tenant, massive increases. Mrs. Rodriguez, $890 to $2,400. The Johnsons in 5A with 3 kids, $1,200 to $3,100. Marco, the graduate student in the studio, $750 to $1,850. "You'll deliver these next week," Sabrina said. "Anyone who can't pay their rent has 30 days to vacate." You're going to displace 40 families. We're correcting a business model." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "And if you can't afford your new rent, Claire, you're welcome to find somewhere else. I'm sure there's a studio across town, within your budget." My father nodded. "This is what's best for the family." The family. There was that phrase again. As they turned to leave, Sabrina paused at the door. "Oh, and Claire, we'll need you to vacate the office too. I'm bringing in a real property management firm. Your services will no longer be required after the transition period." The door closed. Silence swallowed the room. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. Because here's what they didn't know. 3 years ago, my grandmother called me to her bedside. Stage 4 cancer, 2 weeks left. She held my hand with fingers like paper and whispered, "Don't let them turn this into something ugly, Claire. I'm leaving it to you, just you." The deed was filed. The will was ironclad. The building wasn't family property. It was mine. And I'd spend 3 years watching, waiting and preparing for the exact moment my family would reveal who they really were. Now the real game began.
Let me tell you something about revenge. The best kind is the kind they never see coming. For 3 years, I'd kept my mouth shut. 3 years of watching Sabrina lecture me about maximizing assets at family dinners. 3 years of my parents sighing about missed opportunities with Mabel Glenn. 3 years of being treated like the family disappointment. And every single time, I smiled, nodded, played the role, because Grandma Ruth had taught me something invaluable before she died. Let them think they've already won, sweetheart. That's when people get sloppy. So I let them get sloppy. The afternoon after Sabrina's little ambush, I sat in my apartment, my building, and pulled out the file I'd been building for 36 months. Inside, the original deed transfer filed with the county 3 weeks before Grandma Ruth died, legally notarized, ironclad. Copies of every email Sabrina sent discussing taking over the building, all addressed to Mom and Dad, never copying me. Financial records showing I'd been paying the building's mortgage, property taxes, and maintenance costs out of my own management fees. Tenant testimonials I'd quietly collected over the years, statements from Mrs. Rodriguez, the Johnsons, Marco, and others about the stability and care I'd provided. But here's the piece de resistance. 6 months ago, I'd quietly hired an attorney, not some flashy downtown firm like Sabrina worked for, a quiet, meticulous estate lawyer named Margaret Chen, who specialized in property law and family disputes. Margaret had reviewed everything, the will, the deed, the transfer, and she'd given me the most beautiful sentence I'd ever heard. "They have no legal claim whatsoever. The building is yours, Claire, uncontestably." I'd asked her to prepare documents, backup plans, legal countermeasures, and I'd waited because I needed to see exactly how far they'd go, how cruel they'd be, how little they actually cared about the people living here. Now I knew. I picked up my phone and texted Margaret, "It's time." Her response came in seconds. "I'll have everything ready by Monday. This is going to be fun." I allowed myself a smile. But I wasn't going to strike immediately. Oh no, that would be too easy, too expected. I was going to let them think they'd won, let them celebrate, let Sabrina start making plans for her real property management firm, let my parents start counting their imaginary profits. I was going to let them get comfortable, and then I was going to pull the floor out from under them. That weekend, I played my part perfectly. I showed up to Sunday dinner at my parents' house, quiet and subdued. Sabrina was already there, glass of wine in hand, holding court about her exciting new project. "We're going to completely renovate the lobby, marble countertops, modern lighting, really elevate the property." Mom beamed. "It's going to be beautiful." Dad nodded. "Should increase property value significantly." I sat at the table, pushing food around my plate. "You're quiet, Claire," Sabrina said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Are you okay?" I looked up, met her eyes, and let my voice crack just slightly. "I'm just processing everything. It's a lot of change."
She reached over and patted my hand, condescending, pitying. Change is hard, I know, but this is what's best. You'll see. I nodded meekly. Inside, I was counting down the days. Monday morning, the trap would spring. And Sabrina, brilliant, arrogant, untouchable Sabrina, would finally learn what it felt like to lose. What would you do if your own family tried to steal everything from you?
Monday morning arrived like a storm I'd been watching build on the horizon for years. I woke up at 5 a.m., made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with the deed spread out in front of me. My grandmother's signature, my signature, the county clerk's official seal. Property owner, Claire Elizabeth Maddox. Sole. Uncontested, absolute. At 8 a.m. sharp, my phone buzzed. Margaret Chen. Documents are filed with the court. Cease and desist letters are being delivered to your sister's office and your parents' home by courier within the hour. You're officially on record as sole property owner with an injunction against any interference. I texted back, "Thank you." My pleasure. This is the most clear-cut case I've seen in 15 years. They don't have a leg to stand on. I sat back and waited. At 8:47 a.m., my phone exploded. Sabrina calling. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. "Claire, what the hell is this?" Her voice was a razor blade. "I just got served with a cease and desist at my office, in front of my colleagues." "A legal document," I said calmly, sipping my coffee, "informing you that you have no authority over Maple Glen Apartments, because you don't." "Don't be ridiculous. Grandma Ruth left the building to the family." "She left it to me, Sabrina. Just me. The deed was transferred 3 years ago. I'm the sole owner, which means that rent increase letter you gave me, worthless. The notices you wanted me to serve to tenants, illegal. The property management firm you wanted to hire, not happening." Silence. For the first time in my life, Sabrina had nothing to say. You're lying. That's not possible. I would have known." "You didn't know because Grandma Ruth didn't tell you. She told me. She transferred the deed privately, legally, and permanently. It's been filed with the county for 3 years. You can verify it yourself." I could hear her breathing, sharp, angry. "You manipulative little—" "No, Sabrina, I'm not the one manipulating. I'm the one who spent 6 years caring about this place while you calculated how much profit you could squeeze out of it. There's a difference. This isn't over. Actually, it is. The injunction forbids you, Mom, and Dad from making any claims to the property, interfering with operations, or contacting my tenants. If you violate it, there are legal consequences. Margaret Chen, my attorney, will be very happy to pursue them." I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from exhilaration. 60 seconds later, Mom calling. I answered. "Claire, sweetheart, there's been some kind of mistake." "There's no mistake, Mom. Grandma Ruth left the building to me, not to the family, to me." "But we thought your father and I assumed—" "You assumed wrong, and you stood there while Sabrina tried to displace 40 families and triple my rent. You didn't even question it." "We were just trying to help." "Help who? Not me, not the people living here. You were helping Sabrina turn this place into a profit machine." "Claire, please. I'm not selling. I'm not stepping down, and I'm not letting any of you near this property again." I hung up. Dad calling. I declined it. Then I walked to my office window and looked out on the courtyard. Mrs. Rodriguez was watering the flower boxes. The Johnson kids were riding bikes near the fountain. Marco was carrying groceries up the stairs. This place was safe, and I just made sure it stayed that way. But my family wasn't done yet, and neither was I. You know what's fascinating about people who are used to winning? They absolutely cannot handle losing. By Tuesday morning, the fallout was nuclear. My phone had 47 missed calls, 17 voicemails, texts from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, all suddenly very concerned about family unity and rash decisions. Funny how none of them had been concerned when Sabrina was planning to evict elderly tenants. But the message that caught my attention came from my Uncle Paul, Dad's brother, a retired CPA with a sharp mind and zero tolerance for nonsense. "Claire, heard what happened. Your grandmother would be proud. Call me if you need anything, and ignore your father. He's embarrassed, not wronged." I smiled. At least someone got it. Then came the email I'd been expecting, from sabrina.maddox@wrightandpartners.com. Subject: Formal settlement discussion. "Claire, I believe we got off on the wrong foot. Clearly there was a miscommunication regarding Grandma Ruth's intentions. I'd like to discuss a reasonable resolution that benefits everyone. Perhaps we can arrange a family meeting to discuss a partnership structure for the building's management. Let's not let this damage our relationship further. Sabrina." I read it twice. Then I laughed out loud. Partnership structure? Now she wanted to negotiate? I forwarded the email to Margaret with a single line. "She's trying to backdoor her way in. What do I do?" Margaret's response was immediate. "Ignore it completely. Any response acknowledges her claim to negotiate. You owe her nothing. Not a meeting, not an explanation, not a partnership. Radio silence." So that's exactly what I did. I deleted Sabrina's email and got back to work. Because here's the thing, while my family was spiraling, I had a building to run. Mrs. Rodriguez needed her lease renewed. The Johnsons had questions about the new playground equipment I was installing in the courtyard. Marco wanted to discuss organizing a tenant appreciation barbecue. Real things, good things, the kind of things Sabrina would never understand. Wednesday afternoon, my mother showed up unannounced. I was in the lobby reviewing paint samples when I saw her walk in, clutching her purse like a shield. She looked smaller somehow, older. "Claire," she said softly, "can we talk?" I gestured to my office. She followed, sitting stiffly in the chair across from my desk. "Your father's very upset." "I'm sure he is. He feels blindsided." I leaned back in my chair. He was blindsided? I was blindsided when my entire family tried to steal my building and triple my rent. She flinched. "We didn't think of it that way." "How did you think of it, Mom?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then, quietly, "Sabrina made it sound so reasonable. She had spreadsheets, projections. She said you were being irresponsible with a family asset." "My asset, not the family's, mine." "We didn't know that." "Because you didn't ask. You just assumed Sabrina was right. You always do." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Claire. I really am. I should have questioned it. I should have stood up for you." For a moment, I almost softened. Then I remembered Sabrina's smirk, Dad's crossed arms, their absolute certainty that I was the problem. "I appreciate the apology, Mom, but it doesn't change anything. The building is mine. My decisions are final, and I need space from all of you right now." She nodded, wiping her eyes. As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. "For what it's worth, your grandmother always said you were the strongest one." Then she left, and I sat alone in my office, wondering if some bridges were worth rebuilding, or if some fires just needed to burn. Here's something nobody tells you about standing up to family. It's terrifying. Even when you're right, even when you're legally protected, even when you're holding all the cards. Because family isn't supposed to feel like war, but sometimes it is. By Thursday, the silence from Sabrina was deafening. No more calls, no more emails, just nothing, which meant she was planning something. I'd grown up watching Sabrina operate. She didn't yell when she lost, she strategized. She got quiet, circled her target, and struck from an angle you didn't see coming. So I stayed alert. Friday afternoon, Margaret called. "Claire, I need to give you a heads up. Your sister filed a petition to contest the deed transfer on the grounds of undue influence."
My stomach dropped. What does that mean? She's claiming your grandmother wasn't of sound mind when she transferred the property to you, that you manipulated an elderly woman with cancer into signing over a multi-million-dollar asset. I felt like I'd been punched. That's insane. Grandma Ruth was sharp until the day she died. She had her attorney present during the transfer. It was witnessed, notarized, legally airtight. I know, and her claim will fail, but it's going to be a fight. She's going scorched earth. I sat down hard in my desk chair. How long? 3 to 6 months, potentially. She's going to drag this out, make it expensive, make it exhausting. She wants you to settle just to make it stop. I'm not settling. Good, because you'll win. But Claire, prepare yourself. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. She wasn't kidding. By Monday, word had spread through the extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins I barely knew started weighing in. Some supported me, others accused me of tearing the family apart. My cousin Jessica, Sabrina's favorite, posted on social media, "Family should come first. Greed and pride destroy relationships. Praying for healing." The comments were brutal. People who didn't know me, didn't know the situation, passing judgment based on Sabrina's carefully crafted narrative. I wanted to scream, to defend myself publicly. Margaret advised against it. Don't engage. Anything you say can be used in court. Let her have the social media war. You'll win the legal one. So I stayed silent. But silence has a cost. I stopped going to family events, stopped answering calls from relatives, stopped pretending that everything was fine. Mrs. Rodriguez noticed. One evening, she knocked on my door with a container of homemade empanadas. "You look tired, mija," she said, her weathered hands warm on mine. I almost cried. "Just dealing with some family stuff." She nodded knowingly. Family is hard, especially when they forget that love is supposed to come before money. "How do you deal with it?" She smiled. "You remember who you are, and you protect what matters." She gestured around the building. "This place, the people here, that matters. Everything else is noise." She left the empanadas and shuffled back to her apartment. I stood in my doorway watching her go, and something settled in my chest. She was right. Sabrina could file all the petitions she wanted. She could poison the family against me. She could drag this through court for years. But she couldn't take away what I'd built here. She couldn't erase the trust I'd earned, the community I'd protected, the home I'd preserved. This building wasn't just property. It was proof that I'd done something that mattered, and no lawsuit could change that. I just had to hold on long enough to prove it. Would you have the strength to stand alone against your entire family? Drop a comment below. 3 weeks into Sabrina's legal assault, something unexpected happened. I was in my office reviewing Margaret's latest court filings when someone knocked. Not the usual tenant knock. This one was confident, deliberate. I opened the door to find a woman in her mid-50s, silver-streaked hair pulled back, wearing a professional pantsuit and an expression that said she didn't waste time. "Claire Maddox?" "Yes?" She extended her hand. "Diana Castellano. I was your grandmother's estate attorney." My heart skipped. "I remember you. You helped with the deed transfer." "I did, and I'm here because I heard your sister is contesting it." She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "May I sit?" I gestured to the chair. "Of course, but I already have an attorney, Margaret Chen." "I know. Margaret's excellent, but she doesn't have what I have." Diana opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Your grandmother was one of the most meticulous clients I ever worked with. When she decided to leave you the building, she didn't just transfer the deed, she documented everything." She spread papers across my desk. Video testimony recorded 6 months before her death, explicitly stating her sound mind and clear intentions. Letters she wrote explaining her decision, medical records proving her cognitive function was perfect, emails between us discussing her concerns about Sabrina's, she paused, choosing her words carefully, priorities. I stared at the documents. Why didn't you tell me this existed? Because your grandmother asked me not to, unless it became necessary. She hoped your family would respect her wishes, but she prepared for the possibility they wouldn't. Diana pulled out a sealed envelope, my grandmother's handwriting on the front. To Claire, open only if Sabrina challenges you. My hands trembled as I opened it. My dearest Claire, if you're reading this, it means Sabrina has done exactly what I feared. I'm so sorry you're facing this, sweetheart, but I want you to know something. I didn't leave you the building because you're a property manager. I left it to you because you understand what home means. You see people, not profit margins. You protect, you care, you build community. Sabrina is brilliant, but she's forgotten that success isn't measured in dollars. Your father enabled her priorities. Your mother stayed silent. You were the only one who asked how I was feeling instead of asking about my will. Don't let them bully you. Don't let them rewrite history. You earned this, not through manipulation, but by being exactly who you are. Stand firm, fight hard, make me proud. All my love, Grandma Ruth. I had to set the letter down because my vision blurred with tears. Diana's voice was gentle. Your grandmother was very clear about her intentions, Claire. She saw this coming, and she made sure you'd have everything you needed to win. Does Margaret know about all this? I contacted her this morning. We're submitting everything to the court by end of week. Sabrina's petition won't just be dismissed. It'll be dismissed with prejudice, meaning she can't file again. I looked up. So it's over? Diana smiled. The legal fight? Almost. Your sister will receive notification of the dismissal within 2 weeks. After that, she'll have no grounds to continue. And my family? Her smile faded. That's a different battle, one I can't help you with. After Diana left, I sat alone with my grandmother's letter, reading it over and over. You see people, not profit margins. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to win this fight. I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly why Grandma Ruth chose me, and I was going to do it in a way Sabrina would never expect. Time to go on the offensive.
Sometimes the best revenge isn't private. It's putting the truth on display for everyone to see. I spent the weekend drafting something I'd never thought I'd write, a public statement, not a social media rant, not a defensive explanation, a clear, factual account of what had happened, who my grandmother was, and what she'd wanted for Maple Glen. Monday morning, I published it on the building's website, the neighborhood community page, and sent copies to the local Portland press. The real story of Maple Glen, a letter from the owner. My name is Claire Maddox, and I'm the sole owner of Maple Glen Apartments. 3 years ago, my grandmother, Ruth Maddox, transferred the property to me because she trusted me to preserve it as a home for the people who live here, not as an investment portfolio. Recently, my sister Sabrina attempted to take control of the building by falsely claiming family ownership. She planned to triple rents, displace long-term tenants, and replace compassionate management with profit maximization. When her attempt failed, she filed a lawsuit claiming I manipulated our grandmother, a woman who was sharp, independent, and more principled than anyone I've ever known. My grandmother didn't leave me this building because I'm a savvy investor. She left it to me because I see the people who live here as neighbors, not numbers. Because I believe housing is about dignity, stability, and community, not just revenue. I'm sharing this not to attack my family, but to be transparent about who I am and what Maple Glen represents. This building will remain a place where elderly residents can age with dignity, where families can raise children safely, and where young people starting out can afford a home. That was my grandmother's vision, and I intend to honor it. Claire Maddox. The response was immediate. Within hours, the story was picked up by 2 local news outlets. By Tuesday, a journalist from Portland Monthly called asking for an interview. By Wednesday, the story had gone regional. But more importantly, the community responded. Mrs. Rodriguez organized a tenant meeting in the courtyard. 40 residents showed up, nearly everyone in the building.
"We want you to know we support you," she said, her voice strong despite her age. "What your sister tried to do was wrong, and we're grateful you fought back." The Johnson family presented me with a handmade banner, "Our home, our hero. Thank you, Claire." Marco started a petition signed by every tenant, vouching for my management and condemning Sabrina's actions. "If you need character witnesses in court, every single one of us will show up." I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello?" "Claire, it's Aunt Linda." My dad's oldest sister, a woman who'd always been blunt, practical, and fair. "Hi, Aunt Linda. I just read your statements, and I want you to know I called your father and told him he's being an idiot." I blinked. "You did?" "Damn right I did. Ruth knew exactly what she was doing. Sabrina's always been a shark, and your parents enabled it. You did the right thing, sweetheart. Don't you dare back down." "Thank you," I whispered. "And another thing, I'm coming to Portland next month. I'd like to see the building, meet your tenants, see what Ruth saw in you." After we hung up, I sat on my balcony watching the sunset over the courtyard. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. The legal fight wasn't over. Sabrina's dismissal hearing was still 2 weeks away. But I'd stopped playing defense. I'd gone public. I'd rallied my community. I'd honored my grandmother's memory. And whatever happened next, I knew I'd already won the fight that mattered most. The fight for truth.
2 weeks later, I walked into the courthouse with Margaret by my side and Diana following close behind. Across the lobby, Sabrina stood with her attorney, a sharp-suited man from one of Portland's most aggressive firms. Dad was there too, looking uncomfortable in a tie. Mom had stayed home. Sabrina's eyes met mine, cold, furious. I didn't look away. The hearing was held in a small courtroom, nothing dramatic, just a judge, 2 legal teams, and a court reporter. But the weight of it pressed down on me like gravity. Sabrina's attorney went first, arguing that Ruth Maddox had been vulnerable and unduly influenced during her final months, that I'd isolated her from family, that the deed transfer was suspicious in its timing and secrecy. He painted me as calculating, manipulative, an opportunist who'd exploited a dying woman. I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap, while Margaret squeezed my shoulder. When he finished, the judge turned to our side. Margaret stood, calm, precise, deadly. "Your Honor, the petitioner's claims are not only baseless, they're insulting to the memory of Ruth Maddox, a woman who was sharper at 81 than most people half her age." She submitted Diana's documents, the video testimony, the medical records, the notarized letters. Then she played the video. My grandmother appeared on the screen, sitting in her living room 6 months before she died. Her voice was clear, her eyes bright. "I'm Ruth Maddox, and I'm recording this to make my intentions absolutely clear. I'm leaving Maple Glen Apartments to my granddaughter Claire because she's the only one in my family who understands what that building represents. It's not an investment, it's a home. Claire has managed it with integrity, compassion, and skill for 6 years. She's earned this, not through manipulation, but through character. My daughter and son-in-law have different priorities. My granddaughter Sabrina sees dollar signs where Claire sees people. I love them, but I don't trust them with this responsibility. Claire, if someone challenges this, don't back down. You deserve this, and the people living there deserve you." The courtroom was silent. I glanced at Sabrina. Her face was rigid, pale. Dad stared at the floor. Margaret continued. "Mrs. Maddox also left letters explicitly documenting her concerns about her family's priorities. She predicted this challenge. She prepared for it, because she knew her decision was right." The judge reviewed the documents, his expression unreadable. Finally, he looked up. "I've seen contested wills and estate disputes for 30 years. This is not one of them. Mrs. Maddox's testimony is unambiguous. Her mental capacity is documented. The transfer was legal, transparent, and properly executed." He turned to Sabrina's attorney.
Your client has failed to provide any credible evidence of undue influence. This petition is dismissed with prejudice." The gavel came down. It was over. Margaret leaned close. "That means she can't refile, ever. You've won, Claire." I nodded, numb with relief. Sabrina stood abruptly and walked out without a word, her attorney scrambling to follow. But my father stayed. He approached slowly, hands in his pockets, looking older than I remembered. "Your grandmother was right about you," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." "Are you really?" I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "I am, but I don't know how to fix this." "I don't know either, Dad." He left without another word. Outside the courthouse, the sun was shining. Margaret and Diana walked with me to the parking lot, both smiling. "You did it," Diana said. "Ruth would be so proud." I looked up at the sky, imagining my grandmother somewhere, smiling. "I hope so," I whispered. Because now the real work began, rebuilding what had been broken and proving every single day that she'd made the right choice.
6 months after the hearing, Maple Glen is thriving. Mrs. Rodriguez still waters the flower boxes every morning. The Johnson kids still ride bikes in the courtyard. Marco graduated and decided to stay. He's now helping me organize financial literacy workshops for tenants. I installed new playground equipment, repainted the lobby, and started a community garden on the rooftop. Sabrina and I haven't spoken. Maybe we never will. Some bridges burn completely. But my father stops by occasionally. Quiet visits, tentative conversations. He's trying. I'm letting him. My mother sent a card last month. "I'm proud of you, Claire." It's not forgiveness, but it's something. The building is mine. Legally, morally, completely. And every day I honor my grandmother's trust by running it exactly the way she hoped I would, with integrity, compassion, and purpose. People ask if I regret the fight. The answer is no. Standing up to my family was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it taught me that love without respect is just control. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set a boundary and hold it. Maple Glen isn't just a building. It's proof that there's another way to do business, one where people matter more than profit, where home means something deeper than transaction. And if my grandmother taught me anything, it's this: the right choice is rarely the easy one, but it's always worth it. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to stand up to family, fight for what's right, or protect something you love, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. And if you want more real-life revenge stories where justice actually wins, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Because trust me, there are so many more stories like this that need to be told. Thanks for watching. Stand firm, protect what matters, and never let anyone tell you that your compassion is weakness. See you in the next one.